Thanks everybody for joining us today with this Lunch and Learn with Grant Swaim and Gearhead School. I'm going to toss it over to him.
Thank you, Maddie. And yeah, I'm a longtime member of IGO. Started back in '78, and been hanging around ever since. And so I'm looking forward to showing you what I do. And let me go to this next screen. Just want to show you my journey because this thing about education keeps popping up through here, so you'll kind of understand my view too. Because I look at a lot of the things in automotive service industry from a lot of different viewpoints. So I started out when I graduated in '78. The only thing in North Carolina was a diploma. That was it, a 1-year diploma, and the car was predominantly a mechanical beast. That's all you really needed. It's hydraulics and levers and gears. And so I did the 1-year diploma, GTCC in Jamestown, North Carolina. And my first job was a dealership, flat rate tech at a Honda dealer. And they were basically carbureted cars. I guess the only semiconductor on the car was alternator, and that was it. And but pretty quickly they went to fuel injection. So I started at the Honda dealer for 2 years. I really liked the brand, but I didn't particularly care for the dealership environment. So I left there and I started an independent Honda garage. It was one of the few shops in Greensboro that was, one car only. I think there was a BMW guy in town, kind of a small boutique shop. And a lot of my buddies says, I don't believe you can do that. I said, well, maybe I can't, but I'm sure give it a try. So I was very diligent. Within about a month or two, I went pure Honda, and I ran that shop for 20 years. I had a shop I'd built was on a piece of property that Target store wanted worse than I did. It turned out to be a shopping center, a corner of a shopping center deal. So the 20-year mark, I'd went to my first 2 employees and says, look, I got a chance to sell the property. And of course, we can move this business to anywhere. But if you guys want to take and run with it, I think I will do something different after 20 years. So actually did a kind of owner finance. I made it very attractive. I figured I couldn't have been as successful as I was without them. So I did an owner sale. I sold to the first 2 employees. They moved it, sold the property. Well, now what do? You know a lot about Hondas, but you don't have a job anymore. So I developed some Honda training program. Honda was coming out with fuel injection, OBD2, and Honda's not really good about giving out information on how the system works. So I developed a pretty nice on-site program and spent 6 years going around to a lot of Honda garages teaching. I would show up for 3 days. I'd stay there day and night, would train at night and do hands-on during the day. So I did that for 6 years. Um, and during that time, it's travel a lot. It seemed it was easier to sell a $3,000 program in California than it was in North Carolina, but I ended up in California a lot. Then I decided I wanted to go teach in the community college system, but I knew now I had to have a diploma. I had to have an associate degree. So I started working on that and stacked on my diploma another year's worth of work and got associate in automotive technology, got on full-time community college system, did it for 15 years. And during that, I said, why not? I worked on and got it to a Bachelor of Science in Career and Technical Education. Because you always going to have stackable. This is over a long period of time. I went from, entry to middle to 4-year degree. It does help. It does open up doors. And so what I do now is I was in good standards with the school. I've been there for 15 years. And if you know much about education, I never had to change a grade. And my personnel folder was empty after 15 years, which means there's no write-up. So I was in a good place, but I got looking at the industry. There's so many untrained guys coming in the industry, and I was in the Honda Pack program down in Charlotte, and I'm putting like 18 Honda students a year into the industry. I'm thinking, we got like a 40, 50,000 tech shortage in the industry, and I'm on putting 15 or 20 in the pipeline. So I want to go independent again, and that's why I left the school system and started Gearhead School. Um, there's a picture of the shop. That's the business I used to own. They moved it, remember, and they moved it 3 times. This is the final resting place. I've been here about 5 years. This is on 3 acres of land. I think it's about 9,000 square feet, 18 bays, air conditioned shop. And the day before they opened this up, they called me over there and gave me a key to the place. So I kind of thought that was pretty cool. So I have this as a resource. I do a lot of training videos for YouTube in there. That's in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm proud of the guys. You can go there anytime during the day, you'll never find anything but a Honda, and that's nothing but Honda Acura in that building. I mean, that's hard to find. That's somebody that's dedicated. That's kind of the way I did it, and they continued it. So I'm real proud of them. Today, we'll look at kind of 2 things. First point is we're an independence, but we need to kind of keep an eye on the dealerships. And I think there's some changes going over there. And, they've always had about 20-25% of the market share. It's hovered there for ever since I've been watching it. It's ticking up a little bit, but we're going to look at some indicators. I think the dealers going to start getting a little more serious, say over the next 10 years than they have the last 10 years. It's something we need to keep our eye on. And then ultimately at the end, we're going to look about the tech shortage and how we can maybe do something so that we can, because like I say, we'll look at some Toyota dealers are doing some things that are pretty progressive. If we don't kind of pay attention, we won't get caught sleeping on this. Here's some indicators to tell me that the new car dealers are getting a little more serious than they have in the past. This is off of Google Maps. This is a dealership in High Point where I live. This road at the top, I go down there probably 2 or 3 times a week for the last 40 years. There's restaurants on the left side, and I live on the right side. But I travel this road a lot, and the red square in the top left corner, that was the original dealership plot. And in that red square, it was a Honda, a Isuzu, and Toyota dealer all inside that red square. The rest of the side outside the square was property, and it was houses and trees. And so today, they own pretty much everything inside the whole picture is theirs. Inside the red square is Honda only. So now you're seeing what used to be towards the front of the road. Looks like 3 kind of buildings or 3 dealers. Now the whole entire red square is Honda, including that big humongous shop in the back. So they're getting ready. They actually have invested into infrastructure to do something. Now and then the right hand side is all Toyota. So they've quadrupled or whatever in size, mainly this service facility. So, maybe look around your neighborhood and see if I think you'll find a lot of dealers are realizing they got to have some land if they're going to be serious about service. And a lot of them are ramping up. So I think we need to kind of keep that in mind. This is something Toyota's doing that I think most know all about. Carm and his Remarkable Results Radio podcast. I listen to him a lot. Episode 383 was a roundtable discussion about education. And on that panel was Jill Saunders, and she was with Toyota. She was talking about with Toyota, what they're doing. And what they're doing at Toyota, I guess they're looking at trying, I think Toyota's a little different look at service and even aftermarket. They've been pretty good to us, I think, if you look at historically what they've done. But in their dealerships, they actually added a new job position called a service quality specialist. And this is a person that is a Toyota Master Tech. That means that, when you say Master Tech in a dealership environment, you mean they've done everything. They've taken every course available. They've done it all. They're going to take they're rolling out, it's in a test mode now, but they will take a Master Tech, turn it to a salary position. And part of the job is to mentor and coach other technicians and also watch, the tough stuff to fix the quality, it's quality control. That's pretty strong, so now you can think, well, if I got to shop and I'm bringing a guy in, he's kind of new to the game, I'm going to stick him in the oil change pit for a year maybe, and he'll learn from the other guy changing oil. And you got to remember, Toyota is putting not their C Tech to mentor the C Tech, they're putting A Tech to mentor the C Tech. And so, you got to keep your eye on your competition. And they're not an independent garage, but I could say that this may take off. And I kind of looked into, did this happen? Because this podcast was a couple of years ago, and I started looking at Toyota dealership. Didn't take long, I looked at Toyota dealership websites. It didn't take long. The fifth one, here's a page on all their Toyota techs, and there's a guy who is a service quality specialist. He's got the title that was spoke of in that podcast. So there are Toyota dealers. I think they're in the bigger cities. And I looked at a lot of Toyota dealers around my home city here, but I went out a little further out and I found. So this is happening. Just we need to keep your eye on the ball on that. Another interesting twist. This happened about a few months ago. I'm listening to it's actually, it's a podcast at the time, but it's on YouTube channel, The Wrench Way, which you guys are familiar with Wrench Way. And he was interviewing Tanner Brandt, which is a pretty notable mobile diagnostic guy. I think he lives down in Greensville, South Carolina. And just went on about an hour there, and I'm just listening, and something perked me up. And this is actually a quote. It reads a little choppy, but I wanted to do exactly what Tanner said. But they're talking about the mobile diagnostic industry in general, and this is what he said. It says there are several OEMs that figured out that they have a need for this. We're having issues with warranty problems. We should be building teams of diagnostic technicians. There are a couple that are in their infancy right now of doing that. They've reached out and said, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to put these teams together. That's interesting. Now the manufacturers are looking at building a elite team of mobile diag guys that work for the manufacturer that floats from dealership to get the one that their ATEC can't fix. The dealer in comes the OEM diagnostic team. And he also wanted to say that now why do we care? Well, here again, they're getting more serious about service. And then buybacks, if they got a ATEC at a dealer and he just flat can't fix the car, they're going to bring in the cavalry. It's also means, and he also wanted to say that, they have reached out. They were fishing, I think, when they talked to him. They're going to hire some of our top level mobile techs that maybe we were using, going to end up working with a manufacturer. So, you call your local Top Gun in a mobile tech that, you got something you can't fix. And he says, well, I can't do it. I'm working for Honda or Toyota or GM. He's joined a factory team. So that's kind of interesting. And that the manufacturer, they're thinking a little like we think now. It's here against another indication that the OEMs are getting a little more serious about service than they ever have been in the past. So we got to kind of keep our eye on the ball there. So this is where I'm looking. I think over the next 10 years, just going to see the new car dealership, the service side, get a little more progressive than they have in the past. And I think part of this too is that, a lot of independents when it's priced to shop, it's not the way to do it. Before a lot of business coaches are out there, we always felt like we can't be as expensive as a dealer. And I know a lot of my buddies when I ran a shop would say, well, I'll just take the dealer's price, labor, and knock it down 25%. That's my price. You're comparing yourself to the dealer. And that was always attractive sometimes to customers that, hey, I'll go to the independent because he's cheaper. What I'm getting at is as garages get better skilled and understand business, and this is kind of a renaissance right now going on, you see a lot of people that are understanding I should have been more like the dealer cost years ago. And when I'm, being half the dealer, 3/4 the dealer, when I look at my true costs, and so there's kind of like I say, a awakening of a lot of top tier independent shops are starting to push the price on up closer to the dealer. And so that's going to make their market share, they may be able to hold on to some. It shouldn't be that way, but I think the general public will come to independent a lot of times because they're cheaper. But if independents now pushing, the price of the dealer, I'm all for it. That's going to make you have to get even better at your services to pull that person from the dealership if you're, very close in price. But I think you probably should be close in price. And also, I think a top tier shop, if you're really a progressive top tier shop, you really should compare yourself to the dealership service department and not compare yourself to all the other garages in town that hadn't really gone through an awakening on this. So I think that's, don't sell yourself short. You need to kind of keep your eye on the ball and try to compare yourself to the dealer service department as far as services they offer and not compare yourself to shops. So we're starting to transition now from making that point to some things we can do in the training arena. So I'm just kind of reiterating that if Toyota is going to put ATEC on salary and have them monitor the quality control and mentor new hires. And also remember, when if a tech goes to a dealer, he's going to walk in with a very, very extensive online training program. And all the OEMs, when they shut down all their factory training sites. They spend millions and millions of dollars. They have, and I've looked at Toyota's training, I've looked at the Honda's training. It goes from pretty much A to Z and everything between. So when they walk in on day one, they get access, and so they actually have it on, extensive training online available, and they have to go to the school periodically. So this is something available from a guy walks in basically zero. If they're willing to take him on, he can get access to training pretty much from day one. So what do we need to do? We're the aftermarket. We're not dealers. We're the aftermarket industry. So um, right now what we're dealing with is based on, and this is some studies, and I've got the study. It's on my website. If you go to Gearhead.school, you'll find over it's I've got all this studies posted, but there's did a very extensive study a few years back and come to the conclusion we're about 49,000 techs short. It's about 50% of the people in the industry new hires. I'm not talking about somebody that's already in the industry. I left the Ford dealer for the Honda dealer or the independent shop, the guy, but the new entrants, the new ones coming into the industry, we're looking at almost 50% of those don't have either no training or very insufficient training. And maybe years ago, you could take a guy come in or a girl come in and, want to learn on the job. And, it might have worked years ago when it's kind of mechanical beast. And it's just getting tough to pull that off anymore. It's almost immoral, in my opinion, to take somebody and say, yeah, I'll stick you into the quick lube pit for a year or two, or, for a period of time. And I really want to go to school. So we'll look at that later. Some ways we can try to encourage that, and ways we can work with the community college system. They need to learn that before they come in. But we're going to just transition into the education side of this. Like I say, I've seen it from a private trainer 2 different times and work within the community college system. So here's the end. The best thing you do, if you're going to pick up one thing to do today, is support the community college system. If you grew up if you're a citizen or if you live in North Carolina, there's 37 post-secondary, fancy word for community college programs, 37 of them scattered across the country, across the state, 120 instructors. Now, I know there are a lot of people that are from North Carolina here today, but, this is North Carolina Independent Garage Owners presentation. So this is always, other states have the systems. Some are better, some are worse. But I'm asking you, do you know the names of the instructors? There's 120 instructors scattered through 37. You probably need to know who these people are. You need to go down there and take them a box of donuts every now and then, stop in and talk, offer to serve on their advisory committee. Because I'll share in a minute, this community college system in North Carolina is one of probably the best. And as far as the cost, if you go in there, just have to pay everything the going rate as a citizen. You're probably talking, I think, it's $6,000 for a 2-year associate degree, which is stackable. You can take that later on if you want to get a 4-year degree. There's several ways to make that happen. And you just got to add it's 2+2 program. I'll say this quickly. I didn't want to talk about it, but I'll shortly. You really want to try not to, if you hear anybody in your family, in your neighborhood, or in your sphere of influence that's talking about going to a private school, these are schools that charge like $35,000 to $40,000 for a 10-month, whatever it is. I think it's a certificate. That's a killer. There's so many, we lost a lot of good people. Those programs that go in, they leave, and they're so far in debt, and they got something they realized they didn't count. If they really want an associate degree, they got to start all over again. And I don't get started on that because it's really one of my. I've seen grown men in my office, I'll say cry, but they wanted to when they found out what they'd done. So if you're somebody here again in your sphere of influence, if you hear them talking about going to a private school, make sure they understand the community college system, because it's just. And now I'm saying this, in most cases you get it for nothing. There's all kind of ways. There's Pell Grants you don't have to pay back. There's most guys in the system are getting through with, under 5, or most of them under, are almost no cost to go get an associate degree. And in North Carolina now, these are work-based learning. That's another thing where we could get involved. Is associate degree basically going to take 2 years, And but when they're going to school, a nice thing about an associate degree on a 2-year time frame is it's slowed down a lot. They're only going to school about half a day. When I taught in Guilford Tech Community College in Jamestown, I was a morning guy. I taught my guys from 8 to 12, and then they're gone. And we had other guys that taught from 1 to an afternoon class. So they can work. They can, some guys working full time in some places. They can work at least 4 hours a day and still go to school. And what I've got here on this page is these are programs that embrace the work-based learning. That's a fancy word now. It used to be called co-op. That's where you go out in industry and you some of your school credit comes from working in industry so many hours. Now, most of these are manufacturer based, so that's going to knock out the independent. There's a couple caveats. GM has the ASIP program. These are acronyms, but GM ASIP, the Ford Asset, the Chrysler, Honda, and Toyota. You'll see I put in North Carolina the schools that have those. The one that is kind of slick is if you look at GM, the bottom bullet point. If you're an AC Delco service center, you can also work a student from the GM ASIP program. I don't know what that takes. I don't know if that's anybody watching this is an AC Service Delco Center, but if you are, you can go down to Wayne Community College, Central Piedmont Community College, or Charlotte or Goldsboro, and say I'll take one of your GM ASIP students, and you have to pay them, but you're working them, and they're and what's cool about that? Generally, if you take a student on, like when he first comes to school as a co-op student, he's been working for you, part-time for 2 years. He's not looking for a job, and you're probably looking for a tech. He's already been working there for 2 years. You just goes full time, and so plus there's some schools that would have worked the co-op or the work-based learning into the generic automotive programs. They had it where they, even though it's not a dealer, so you go to any community college that with the driving distance, it may be the cities could be a source for you if you want to do that and see if they offer work-based learning in the co-op program. That way you could take on a student, and they're already showing they're going to school and they're working, and you're going to get to date them for 2 years before you marry them. Right? It's a pretty good deal. Works real well. You don't want to just throw them to the wolves when we get out of school and throw them in a bay and say, have at it. And of course, I don't want to forget that here in North Carolina, we have the Apprenticeship Program, which has pretty much been ran and pushed through the Independent Garage Owner Association. And there's a website and phone number. And of course, you'd be contacting the IGO. And basically, I think that is you're still in high school, you get a sponsor, and you check a few boxes. But also contact them directly. But this is where you can hear again, tuition free. So a guy or gal in high school say, "Hey, I'm a gearhead. I want to work on cars," and do that. They check the right boxes and do the right thing. They can graduate 2-year associate degree from a community college with 0 debt, and that's about as good as it's going to get right there. So that kind of brings up to where I offer, I think, a solution. It's not a solution to the whole problem. It's a solution to a part of the problem. And if that idea is, let me just double check. Yeah, okay. The reality of it is, like I say, about half the time, statistically, if we bring somebody new coming in, they're going to show up at our doorstep and they either have little training or no training. And, it's not in their cards. They can't go to school. There's all kind of stories. They're too old, or they show up and you need somebody, and you're like, what can I do this? I don't think it's feasible anymore just to take on somebody that loves cars and put him in the bay and start giving you stuff and see, it's a hard slog for you and for the tech. So you're going to try your best to get them, to get some prior training, but it's not in the cards. With Gearhead School, and that's one reason I did this. I was at Central Piedmont Community College running the Honda Pack program, and it's kind of my wheelhouse. I was doing fine, and I got thinking about this huge deficit of untrained techs, and how many people need to be trained. And I realized, I'm working a full year, and I passed them on to the second year guys. So I'm in a pipeline that's only putting maybe 15 Honda techs in the industry a year, and we got a problem, more like 50,000 short a year. And so that's why and I'm an online kind of guy. So that's why I developed Gearhead School. And what it basically is fully online, and it's all the essentials, and I'm going to demo it here in a second. I'll have to switch around real quick. This is kind of a presentation to the live, but the 72 topic specific lessons, meaning there's one lesson on brake fluid, there's a one lesson on motor oil, there's a one lesson on tire sidewall information. So it's not like a book you pick up on these huge textbooks and you got to flip through it to find something. You can 3 mouse clicks and you're on to what you need to know. And you can whoever's using this program can consume it any way they want to consume it. They can go at their own pace. Um, One thing I offer too is access to me. This is my full-time commitment. This is not a hobby for me. And like I said, I left the community college system. I took an early retirement. It's called less than full benefit retirement. And all the lines, and I knew I wanted to do that so I could focus on this. And so also, I have weekly Zoom meetings as a group. If I got somebody that don't like groups, we do one-on-one. Everybody has my cell phone number. I kind of know where the bodies are buried in the industry, and that can help them talk. And if they explain flat rate to them, the nuances of working at a shop, and the personality traits. And I mean, there's a lot more to learn the technology than just you stick somebody out here shung in the flat rate environment or the dealership environment. They need a shoulder cry on every now and then. So that's one thing I do is it's not a textbook, it's a living, breathing thing, and I'm accessible. And also offer like for the garages. As a matter of fact, I've been building this for about a year and a half, and really did a soft launch about a month ago. And I've sold some of this, but my biggest buyers so far have been shops. I've got a Meineke franchise up in Wisconsin that bought a pack of 5 because she says, everybody comes in here unless they can prove to me they know what's going on, they're going to do this. And so I do have if a shop buys in, they can actually buy, some seats in quantity, but they can actually have a training portal. So they can say, hey, Johnny, I want you to work on the tire lessons next week or next 10 days. And you can follow and track them. And I should be able to share that to you here in just a few minutes. So I sell it to individuals. I go to a lot of car and coffee shows, and I have individual gearheads. They're everywhere, gearheads of all ages. And then, like I say, it can be used for is onboarding, because if you're going to hire somebody under train, you need to have a plan. I mean, if you just hire them under train and stick them in a lube pit, and I'll say this as a little side note is, you go on YouTube and start looking around, there's some people that have gone into the business the wrong way, and they become industry experts. You'll see title on YouTube video, The Life of a Dealership Tech, or, what it's like to work in the garage business. And a lot of these guys are telling these horror stories, and you'll look and they'll have, 50,000 followers, like, holy smokes. And they're talking about, there's one guy, he talks about he went 2 years to a school. I don't know what it was, community college. I don't think he didn't mention he graduated, but he went to community college for 2 years. And he's telling a story. He went to a dealer and got stuck in the quick lube pit. Now they call it express lane, right? For 2 years. And he's in there changing oil for 2 years. In the 2 years, he just couldn't take it anymore. So he goes to his boss, I'm leaving. And the boss said, wait a minute, we're going to cut you a deal here. I'll make you the supervisor of the quick lube pit, and I'll give you a little more money, and we'll get you out of there pretty soon. So he stays 2 more years. Now 4 years. I think the supervisor deal was he made sure that two people didn't go to lunch at the same time. I think that was about what he was doing there. But anyway, he's telling a story about how he changed oil for 4 years at a Toyota dealer before he went to work onto the line. Now, I know there's a lot of shop owners in here, and we all know that don't pass the sniff test. You don't have to, but people that don't know better, there's just something wrong with the guy. If they're going to have him stuck in the quick lube pit for 4 years, there's something wrong with him. But people watching that don't know that. So now we got the young guys that are thinking, God, I got to go change oil, for 4 years before I can get to touch a car. So we need to just try to make sure we tell the story and they don't tell the story. So what I'll do now, I want to switch over and try to bring my slide up. I think we can stop the share here and share. Got it, Maddie? We're looking at the website now. Okay.
Yep, good.
The URL is easy, gearhead.school. Funny story. I've had this whole thing in my mind about fleshed out, and I'm laying. I woke up one morning at 3 a.m. It happens to me a lot. I don't know. I wake up at 3 a.m. Gearhead School. I said, if I go downstairs and I check and the school is a domain name, this is a green light. So I went down and I looked up, and school was a domain name. So I grabbed gearhead.school, and the rest is history. But it just seemed like that was a sign there. Who knew that school was a domain name? Gearhead.school should be easy to remember, right? I only have one product and really one focus. I don't have a lot of extra stuff on here. Now you do come over here and you can get well, who cares about my story? Here's a freebie. Anybody wants a freebie? Curated YouTube playlist. This is something I've been doing for years and years. A lot of instructors in North Carolina love this. I've gone through and curated, I think it's over 2,400 YouTube videos, and they got to be good. They're telling the right thing. They're not got the hat on backwards and using claw hammers and working in the driveway. This is all good stuff. Most of these are about 15 people I watch consistently, and I sort them into playlists. So if you want to look at cam drive systems, you come in here and it drops you right into a YouTube playlist. All these will be good for in-house training programs. You got your guys working for you, and instead of getting YouTube in general and getting lost in the, they can come in here and shut that. Well, I'll do it this way. So this is a freebie. You just come over to the site. You create a YouTube playlist. Also, some of you guys that are in North Carolina within, this is a mobile training rig I put together. I can show up. I've got on board power system, got a deep cell battery. I can do, hours of training on a 40-inch monitor. I do a lot of car and coffees. If you're having a tech fair in your neck of the woods, I'm in Central North Carolina, and I do have limitations, but I can go 150 miles on pretty much. Just you reach out to me. I'll be glad if you're doing something in your shop and you're doing stuff in the neighborhood and you're trying to do some kind of tech fair. Give me a call. But let's go over here and take a look at the site. That's what you want to see here. So you come in here in this video, I talk about it, but here's 4 freebies, and I'm logged in so you can look at anything, but there's 3 full lessons and features for individuals. Teledyne is just in time. They don't have to consume any order they want to, or any order you tell them. If you're buying it for them, then you can kind of have the right to tell them what you want them to do. A lot of multimedia. Track your progress. You can track your lessons as completed. And then you have access to me. And like I say, we have weekly planned meetings. We're going to have one-on-one meetings, have phone calls. Companies such as you guys that may be in it now, you can use this to onboard your techs. Bring somebody in. You don't assume they know anything. Now, if they come as a seasoned tech and they've got ASC certs and all that, use your conscience there. But if you come, I'll use your good sense. But you got somebody shows them, obviously, they've never worked in the industry and they really hadn't had any training. You don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and you don't know what they don't know. And the worst kind of scenarios can happen when you stick somebody even in a quick lube pit. Mistakes are pretty expensive. Oil left out and wheels left loose. That's kind of the worst place to put somebody in a way, but it happens. So use it for onboarding. You confirm they know the essentials before you put them on to certain things. I can arrange if you buy like a custom training portal is an option I got where you would actually be able to log in and see all your people and look at the progress. You tell them to do this, this, and this, and you can actually see the progress on what they're doing. Of course, and I can sell seats in bulk. let's go ahead and take a look. I'm big on terminology because if they know what things are called, man, let's go down to something more spectacular here. Also get in shop careers, like are they trying to decide what they want to do? And I get into um, different types of jobs within a shop, explain what A level, B level, C level means, different types within, line tech or tranny tech or undercar tech, a transmission specialist. I read all this from scratch. There's no cut and paste going on here. And this, if they're looking at a general repair shop or brand specific, like a Honda Toyota shop, or system specific, like a transmission shop, or a hybrid shop, franchises, fleets, and new car dealerships. So I explain in detail what the cultures are like. Like if you go into a brand specific repair shop, I'll give you the pros and cons of and some examples of some specific, shops and what you need to work in those types of shops. HVAC shop, hybrid shops, you know, restoration shops, and where you can probably go to get the education if you want to do that before you show up. Hand tools, I go through the proper name and how you use every hand tool. I know this sounds simple, but you don't know they don't know anything. Tell them to grab a crow's foot. They don't know what a crow's foot is unless you tell them what a crow's foot is, right? So I go through every wrench. I do use a few YouTube videos when they're very, very, very good, and I just don't throw one at random. There's flare nut line wrench, ratchet head wrench. Now some are short. Let's see if I can get you a good beefy one here. Get the precision measuring tools. Another thing too is every lesson starts off with a overview video. What I do is I write the entire lesson first. Then I come back and make the video. In the video, I'm walking through the lesson and highlight some things that were hard to describe and otherwise. So, and the way you mark a lesson as complete, you have to watch this lesson as completion. And then at the very bottom of a lesson, there's a take quiz, and it's dimmed out now. I'd have to complete the lesson at the top or the video at the top. And then I could take the quiz. And it's very simple, like 5 or 6 or 7 questions, just to kind of confirm that you actually read the lesson. So this is on precision measuring tools. So I get into calipers, vernier caliper, which is obsolete, dial caliper, which is obsolete, and then digital calipers, appropriate video, and when you need to move up to a caliper to a micrometer, filler gauges, go no go gauges, dial indicators, and then for checking the rotor run out, and plastic gauge. And so I try to catch all the measuring tools, and they understand when to use and when not to use it. Get the shop physics. Like I'm not going to show you how to put brakes on a car, but I show you hydraulics. I can do, I got a whole lesson on friction. And so if you understand friction hydraulics, how hard is it, if you got a guy comes to you and he knows friction hydraulics, how hard is it to make a decent brake guy out of the guy? So I get into static coefficient of friction and kinetic coefficient of friction. And I'm big on physics because, if you understand physics, it doesn't like change of state. You could probably get a room full of techs and ask them how air conditioning really works. And not many people really know for some reason, So I think that's important. You understand that you change state from a liquid to a gas and takes on latent heat of vaporization. So we cover that as a physics class. I do relate it to air conditioning down at the bottom. That's an oldie goldie. That's the car that had the water tray in there and would actually, it didn't work real well when it was real hot and humid outside, but it would knock down the temperature through vaporization. But so I do tap back to air conditioning cycle there. And it's better if you teach them the physics behind it, then they can. Here's another two, kind of a pet peeve from not a pet peeve, something I like to. I think everybody should be able to do is identify a bolt correctly. Make sure we're doing on time here. So I could take Everything's very granular. You may notice I try to have it very easy. So if I can go over to the navigation, I can pick one title and get straight to it. And then I can, the table of contents on every lesson, they're all edit the same way. I can go here and then jump right straight to a section. If I just want to refresh my memory on tensile strength on the faster, I think 3 clicks, I can be sitting on tensile strength on the faster. That's one thing you don't get in the textbook. You don't get this granular, but this particular lesson is on standard bolts. So we go into diameter. Where they know standard bolts don't come in infinite diameters. It's going to come in certain fractions of an inch. And then we get into how you measure, and it's going to come in a little smaller than the fractional size. Make sure you understand that. And the length and the pitch, coarse pitch, fine pitch, when you use one over the other. And the thread pitch gauge, tensile strength, and then the ways you drive it. So, and then at the bottom, we come up with there's a chart of all the typical fractional bolts used, and their thread pitch, and their decimal equivalent, and their torque. I think it's important stuff. And I tell sometimes career fairs, I'll double check. Yeah, we're doing okay. It's career fairs. I've got some bolts underneath my counter in my trailer. I'll pull out a bolt and lay it on. I'll say, hey, this bolt could be 50 cents. This bolt could be $50. And then they don't understand that. And I say, well, if I could take this bolt, identify it, and pick the phone up and say, hey, I need a 3/8 coarse, 1.5 long, grade 8 bolt, standard cap drive, the faster guy would deliver it 4 days over. That's 50. That's 50-cent bolt. You just drop it off. But if I got to ride to town 20, 30 miles and take that bolt and walk in there and hand it to the guy and say, I want one of those, that's a $50 bolt or probably $100 bolt. I'm just big on, you should be able to identify faster. And it's say you could save your rear end sometimes. Service fluids, here again, Dollar General just went through a $20-some million lawsuit because of, see, every little thing on the back of that. SN. That N, of course, is a service class. That basically that's good for 2020 and older. Dollar General was selling SJ oil and SF oil, and they're actually selling FSF oil in the Dollar General, private label Dollar General, and people were buying this because it's $1.50, and it wasn't working out too well. Look it up. They actually just got resolved this last week. And so it's important to know that this last letter is a service class, and that's basically going to date the oil. And we're now at SP. Of course, S is spark ignited for gas. So I take, the back of an oil jug. I know I'm probably going too fast and it looks like a blur here. And the ILSAC standards. And you get the idea there. And I would, I guess we can pull this off with help from Matt here. And if anybody got any questions about Gearhead School, I want to see some particular, this the program opened up here, so I could show you in particular, service information systems, so know that they can go, buy into the manufacturer systems, talking about training, ASE, what all that means. And I did add electrical. I was about finished about 2 months ago, and I said, no, I got to do electrical. So let me just show you. People say, yeah, it's got a short. It's got a short. They don't know what they're talking about. A short what? So I get in very simple. I start off and identify the components, grounds, what a series circuit is. This is just one of about 12 lessons. This is just on basic circuit terminology. I did all my own artwork. So I try to make, I think I tried to do a good job of explaining things. And the closed circuit versus an open circuit versus the power side of the circuit and the ground side of the circuit, and power control circuit and ground control circuit. So I have a real basic DC electrical to get them started on the right foot. Now, you're going to have to, obviously once I get through all the fundamentals, then you need to put them into your regular, whether you're using CarQuest or whatever training system, shows, online, face-to-face. And this is going to get them all the essentials and get them on a good, solid foundation. But obviously at some point then, and this could really be a good, easy year for them. Matter of fact, the standard deal is you're bound to it, you have a year's access. But this is not going to take a person to be it's going to take them to a strong C and into a B Tech. It's not going to take them high B into an A, obviously, without additional training. But right now, I don't think anybody dresses the incoming ones under trained. They just kind of get thrown to the wolves. And if they don't tip a lot of stuff and they don't get frustrated after 6 months, then they'll probably make it. But that's a hard price to pay. So let me stop sharing. And I'll be up to take any questions, or, we can wrap up and let you have a short lunch break either way.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask away.
And all my contact information is very easy. If you go to my site, you'll see contact us. It's got my telephone number, my email address, a contact form you can fill out. Very easy going guy. I'm not a hard sell kind of person, so you don't have to worry about that. But I do a lot of service. I do help the industry a lot. I just spend a lot of time. If you want me to come by and talk to the neighborhood kids about cars, I'll do that. I do a big car and coffee down in Morrisville, which is down close to Raleigh. I just bought into that. I'll be doing a vending there on the first Saturday of the month. 2,000 cars, about 6,000 people walk around a parking lot for 4 hours it's crazy. But there are a lot of passionate car people out there, and you get the industry realize it's like a religion. I mean, and I bought into it as a kid, and I've been car guy all my life.
Looks like we have a quiet crowd today.
Okay.
Everybody's snacking on their lunch, or I don't know. All right, if there are no more questions, I will go ahead and let you all return to your lunch.
And then, of course, I just say if anybody within, here get to North Carolina and back close by, if you would come by and drop in, and we're planning to get out and hit, I hit areas in North Carolina. I'll go to a lot of the chapter meetings, and so if you can come by and see what you got going on and see what I got going on, you'll find I'm not a hard sell kind of guy. We're pulling a rope in the same direction. So if you would just come by, like I say, particularly in the central North Carolina area, that's very doable. All right.
All right. Well, I put your contact information and the link to your website in the chat, so everybody should have that, just in case they missed it. But if there's not anything else, thank you so much, Grant. Thanks everybody for joining. I hope you all have a good rest of your Tuesday.
All right. Bye.